Good morning, Paul. Thanks for joining me.
Morning, Tom. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to have a little discussion with you.
No problem. How are things at NSF at the moment?
Yeah, really good. Obviously, as every company, we've had some effects with COVID and lockdown, but as a company, we took some risk assessments, and we furloughed a few staff, unfortunately, but they're all back. The account managers who my customers and your customers deal with a lot, we've all been working from home. And interestingly enough, we have had a 2-shift system in the test laboratory as well. So testing hasn't really been affected at all. So 2-shift system running. So yeah, there's been some early starts and some late finishes for some. So it's actually been quite positive, to be honest with you.
A lot of that test works around the water fittings regulations, isn't it? What are those regulations and why are they important?
Yeah, there's 2 questions there. And they may need a little bit of a detailed response. But the water regulations are an enforceable piece of legislation, and they detail essential requirements for the supply of drinking water inside the boundary of a property and up to the point of use. So everything in your house, it encompasses from your stopcock to your washing machine to your point of use tap or showers. And they've been with us an awfully long time. They can be traced back to the Manchester and Salford Act of 1823. And that was the first piece of legislation that prevented the negligent waste of water. But the water regulations we know and love now, they set out a regulatory framework for all aspects of the delivery of water, from citation, interpretation, enforcement, disputes, how water companies deal with disputes. But importantly for our industry, they detail what's required for water fittings in contact with water. And that can be Regulation 3 for the requirements for the water fittings, for the installation of water fittings, and the requirements for water fittings are Regulation 4. And again, if anyone takes anything away from this interview, it's Regulation 3. Now, Regulation 3 says that products in contact with water shan't waste, misuse, undue consume, or contaminate the water supply. And for NSF, the last one is contamination. And for us, this is really important because we're improving public health. And that's one of the cornerstones of our organisation. And it's something it's really keen we want to promote. So that's why the water regulations are really important, because they set out the basic principles to ensure that everyone has that right to clean, wholesome water, and it's delivered to the point of use in your house.
You mentioned Regulation 4 there, which is specifically about water fittings. How does the NSF Regulation 4 scheme guarantee assurance that products comply?
Again, there's the normal route, and what we normally do now is that we test these water products or water fittings, and that can be fittings, it can be mechanical fittings, and it can also be materials as well. So there's 2 aspects to this, and for mechanical products, we test them against the regulator specifications, and this is a series of criteria mechanically to show that they don't waste, misuse, undue consume, or contaminate the water. So this can be endurance testing, pressure testing, etc. Our laboratory is 17025 accredited. And for materials, because it's important, we mustn't forget about materials, because non-metallic materials that are in contact with the water, they can change or impart an odor or flavor into the water. They can actually give an appearance of discoloration of the water, promote growth of harmful microorganisms, Legionella, Pseudomonas, etc., or they can leach toxic chemicals into the water. So another aspect of the testing that we do now is we test non-metallic materials for BS6920. So it's put these two together, and that's the method that we employ at this moment. The Reg 4 certification scheme is going to go one step further. One of the reasons why we want to offer this choice to the stakeholders or to our customers is to ensure that we're trying to give repeatable interpretation of the water regulations. This has been a concern in the past, and also we want to offer a service where we audit. We require site audits of clients or manufacturers to ensure that the supply chain is also in place, to ensure that the materials that they use are certified or are approved to BS6920, and that they continue to be approved throughout the life cycle of the product. So it's those together. It's testing and audit. And when we audit this and issue a certification for Reg 4, that will be under the banner of 17065 accreditation as well.
So a lot of BMA members know NSF extremely well already, but for those that don't, how do they go about getting their products on the NSF Reg 4 scheme?
Reasonably straightforward. It is reasonably straightforward if you're an existing client and you've been through the normal approval that we manage at the moment. Then you can just go onto your account. You can complete the application form, and within there you find a little box which asks you the simple question: do you wish to go for RAS approval? And we are still feeding that market. You know, people, we're going to do what people want. If they still want that sort of approval, then the RAS approval, then we're going to issue that. If not, they can have a little tick box and they can tick for Reg 4, or they can go for both. The choice is purely up to them. If you're not an existing client, then we'll direct the inquiry to one of our business development managers, who can take them through the process and help them through the process. Because we hear a lot of people saying it's really quite complicated, but when you actually break it down into the essential elements, it's relatively straightforward. We are only trying to ensure that a product doesn't waste, misuse, undue consume, or contaminate the water. We have to remember that. We have to sometimes bring it back to that simple form. And really, we just need to be provided with the right paperwork, which gives us the right information, which details the right materials in use and the right credentials. We need to ensure that drawings are correct. And then we undertake a technical review. If that's all fine, we then ask for samples. We undertake testing. We may undertake an audit if you require Reg 4 certification. And then hopefully it's presented to the UK water industry, or it's presented to our technical assessment panel for the certification process, for the end of the certification process, and hopefully listed on the website to show that you meet the requirements of the water supply, water fittings regulations.
Paul,
very long answer to that, but you know, sometimes I do like to break it down. Once you've been through this process a few times, you understand exactly what we require.
So it's partly it's about kind of getting to understand the system, isn't it?
It is, and understanding what we want. Oh, you know, I've been in certification a long time, and one of the important things is for us to understand your product, what's inside your product, and for us to be able to put our hand on our heart and say this product is compliant, because the materials, we have the credentials of the materials, they're compliant, it's been tested against the regulator specifications, and it passes. The interpretation piece is what can hit people at the moment. The water regulations and the regulator specifications were written some time ago, and they really do need updating. And sometimes we're trying to interpret, things have moved on and there are different interpretations, and that's what we that's what we need to sometimes make judgment call on, and those interpretations also have to be worthwhile, because there's some interpretations been made which possibly aren't as worthwhile for the enforcement or to serve the ethos of the water regulations.
Paul, it's been great to catch up with you. See you soon, hopefully.
Thank you very much.